The night sky turned blood orange as flames devoured the east side of Willow Creek. Sirens wailed from every direction, their urgent cries drowned out by sporadic gunfire and breaking glass. A police helicopter circled overhead, its spotlight sweeping across rooftops, where shadowy figures darted between hiding spots. Below, rival gangs had turned 4th Street into a war zone, with overturned cars serving as makeshift barricades. Officers in riot gear formed a defensive line at the intersection, shields raised against projectiles hurled from the darkness. Families streamed from apartment buildings, clutching children and hastily packed belongings. Amidst the fleeing crowd, an elderly woman stumbled and fell. 2 teenagers abandoned their live streaming to help her to her feet and guide her toward the evacuation point. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning rubber. A reporter, her voice trembling despite her professional demeanor, addressed a camera with City Hall's clock tower visible in the background. "We're witnessing what authorities are calling the worst civil unrest in our city's history, with at least 3 city blocks actively burning and reports of multiple casualties." 24 hours earlier, no one could have predicted the destruction that would consume their neighborhood. No one, except perhaps Catherine Winters. Marcus Jefferson had inherited Crown Cut's Barbershop from his father 15 years ago. What began as a simple neighborhood business had evolved into something far more significant, a community cornerstone where generations of local families gathered. The shop sat on the corner of 4th and Maple, its large windows allowing abundant natural light to illuminate the black and white checkered floor. Vintage barber chairs, lovingly maintained since the 1950s, lined one wall beneath framed photographs chronicling the shop's 6-decade history. A continuous soundtrack of classic soul and R&B floated from speakers mounted in each corner. It was Saturday morning, and Crown Cuts was hosting its monthly Fresh Start event, offering free haircuts to job seekers and at-risk youth. The shop buzzed with activity as 5 barbers worked their stations while a line formed outside. Marcus moved between chairs, clippers in hand, offering encouraging words to each client. "Hold still. Jason. Big interview Tuesday." "Right." Marcus asked a young man in his chair, carefully tapering the sides of his fade. "Yeah, at the tech company downtown," Jason replied, his shoulders noticeably relaxing as Marcus worked. "First real opportunity since I got out 3 months ago." "You got this," Marcus assured him, spinning the chair to work on the back. "Remember what I always say. Looking good is feeling good." They finished in unison, drawing laughter from nearby clients. At the reception desk, Marcus's 20-year-old daughter Zoe checked in newcomers while simultaneously managing the shop's social media accounts. She held up her phone, capturing a quick video of the packed shop for their Instagram page. "Dad, we've already helped 15 people today," she called out. "That's 5 more than last month's event." Marcus nodded with pride. That's what it's all about. Building people up. The bell above the door chimed as Pastor Williams entered, carrying 2 large boxes of donuts from the bakery across the street. "Thought you all might need some fuel," he announced, placing them on the community table where a coffee urn was already half empty. "Always right on time, Pastor." Marcus smiled, temporarily pausing his work to greet the elderly man with a warm handshake. Outside, neighborhood children had set up a makeshift car wash in the adjacent parking lot, with proceeds earmarked for the community center's after-school program. Music, laughter, and the occasional splash of water created a festive atmosphere, despite the modest surroundings of this working-class district. Detective Andre Powell, off-duty and dressed in civilian clothes, was next in Marcus's chair. The childhood friends had maintained their bond even as they pursued different paths, one upholding the law, the other building community through his business. Usual cut, Marcus asked, draping the cape around Andre's shoulders. You know it. Clean it up, but don't take too much off the top. Andre lowered his voice. Heard anything more about those break-ins on 7th Street? Marcus's expression grew serious as he prepared his tools. Mrs. Johnson's pharmacy got hit Thursday night. 3rd time this month. She's talking about closing up. Can't afford the insurance hikes. We've increased patrols, but we're stretched thin, Andre admitted. New budget cuts mean fewer officers on the street. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the entrance. A woman in her early 40s, with highlighted blonde hair styled in an angular bob, stood in the doorway. Designer sunglasses perched atop her head. Catherine Winters, known throughout Willow Creek as simply Karen behind her back, surveyed the space with evident displeasure. "Excuse me," she announced loudly over the music, her voice carrying an impatient edge that immediately dampened the room's conviviality. "I need a trim. Right away." Zoe approached with her appointment tablet. "Hi there. We're currently hosting a community event, but I'd be happy to schedule you for later today or tomorrow." Catherine's gaze darted around the shop, taking in the diverse clientele, before returning to Zoe with thinly veiled disdain. "I don't have an appointment because I've never needed one before. I live in the estates," she added, referencing the upscale gated community on the other side of town. "I'm meeting friends for lunch in 45 minutes. "I understand," Zoe replied evenly. "But as you can see, all our chairs are occupied, and these gentlemen have been waiting their turn." Catherine's posture stiffened. "Surely someone can accommodate me. I only need a quick trim." She pointed toward a young barber, finishing up with a teenage client. "He's almost done." Marcus, observing the exchange, excused himself from Andre and approached. "Ma'am, my daughter explained our situation. Today, we're providing services to community members preparing for job interviews. I'd be happy to fit you in at 4 o'clock. "Do you know who I am?" Catherine's voice rose slightly. "My husband is on the city council. We fund half the business improvement grants in this district." The shop had grown quieter, conversations tapering off as attention shifted to the confrontation. Marcus maintained his professional demeanor, despite the woman's escalating tone. "With all due respect, Mrs. Winters, everyone receives the same treatment here. I can't prioritize you over people who've been waiting, especially today." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "So you're refusing to serve me?" "Not at all. I'm offering to serve you at 4 o'clock, or tomorrow morning." "This is ridiculous." She glanced around the shop again, her gaze lingering on the predominantly Black and Hispanic clientele. "I see how it is. Some customers matter more than others to you people." Andre stood up, his police instincts activating despite being off duty. "Ma'am, maybe it's best if you come back another time." Catherine's attention snapped to him. "And who exactly are you to tell me what to do?" "Just a customer suggesting a solution," Andre replied calmly. Catherine's face flushed red. She turned abruptly, pausing at the doorway to deliver a final barb. "You'll regret this. I guarantee it." The bell jangled violently as she yanked the door open and stormed out. A brief silence followed her departure before conversations gradually resumed. Marcus returned to Andre's chair with an apologetic shrug. "Sorry about that." "Happens," Andre replied, though his expression remained troubled. Outside, Catherine Winters retreated to her white Mercedes SUV, parked directly in front of the fire hydrant. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the steering wheel. Instead of starting the engine, she reached for her phone and dialed 911. Emergency services. What's your emergency? The dispatcher's voice answered. Catherine's demeanor transformed, her voice adopting a tremulous quality. Please help. I'm at Crown Cut's Barbershop on 4th and Maple. I just saw multiple people with drugs and weapons inside. I think they're dealing. There are children nearby. Please hurry. I don't feel safe. She ended the call, a cold smile forming on her lips as she watched the barbershop from her vehicle. She opened her contacts list and scrolled to a name labeled R before typing a quick message. It's happening. 4th and Maple. 20 minutes. Back inside Crown Cuts, the atmosphere had returned to normal. Marcus was finishing Andre's cut when Zoe approached with a concerned expression. Dad, I think there's something weird going on outside. That woman is still sitting in her car, and I swear she's taking pictures of the shop. Andre turned in his chair. How long has she been there? About 15 minutes, Zoe replied. Should I say something? Before either man could respond, the unmistakable sound of police sirens grew louder, then abruptly stopped outside. Through the large front windows, they watched as 3 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. What the hell? Marcus muttered, exchanging a bewildered glance with Andre. The shop door burst open as 4 uniformed officers entered, hands positioned near their holstered weapons. The lead officer, a sergeant with a crew cut and weathered face, scanned the room with practiced efficiency. Everyone remain where you are, he commanded, his authoritative voice cutting through the suddenly silent shop. We received a credible report of drug activity and weapons on these premises. Andre immediately stood up, reaching slowly into his pocket to retrieve his badge. Sergeant Hayes, I'm Detective Powell, Willow Creek PD. What's going on here? The sergeant's expression registered recognition, but didn't soften. Detective, we got a 911 call reporting multiple individuals dealing drugs and brandishing weapons in this location. Marcus stepped forward, incredulity written across his face. That's absolutely false. We're hosting a community event, free haircuts for job seekers. You can see for yourself. Sir, please step back, one of the younger officers instructed, his hand moving closer to his weapon. The tension in the room escalated as clients exchanged nervous glances. A teenager near the back door shifted in his seat, prompting an officer to immediately train his attention in that direction. Don't move, the officer barked. He's just a kid, Marcus protested, his voice rising. This is outrageous. Who made this call? Outside, more patrol cars arrived, their flashing lights drawing attention from neighboring businesses and apartments. A small crowd began to gather as news spread rapidly through text messages and social media. Catherine Winters remained in her SUV, now recording video on her phone as additional officers approached the barbershop. Inside, Sergeant Hayes addressed Andre. Detective, I understand your position, but we need to conduct a search based on the report we received. This is a respected business. Hayes, Andre argued, moving closer. I've been here all morning. There's nothing illegal happening. Then there's no issue with us performing our due diligence, Hayes replied firmly, before turning to address the room. Everyone needs to produce identification and remain seated while we conduct our search. Murmurs of protest rose from several clients. Jason, the young man preparing for his job interview, stood up despite the cape still draped around his shoulders. This is profiling, he declared, his voice shaking with indignation. You wouldn't be doing this if this was a white barbershop across town. Sir, sit down now, an officer ordered, stepping forward. Marcus moved between them, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Everyone, please stay calm. Jason, please sit. Let's not make this worse." As the officers began methodically moving through the shop, checking identification and searching behind counters, the crowd outside grew larger and more vocal. Video of the police presence was already circulating on social media, accompanied by varied and increasingly inflammatory captions. 3 blocks away, in an abandoned service station, Raymond "Ice" Jackson watched one such video on his phone. At 28, he had spent nearly a third of his life in prison before being released last year. Since then, he had maintained a precarious balance between legitimate work and his connections to the East Side Crew, a local gang with territorial claims over several blocks surrounding Crown Cuts. "They hitting Crown?" asked Darius, a 19-year-old recent recruit, peering over Ice's shoulder at the footage. "Looks like it," Ice replied, his expression hardening as he read the accompanying text. "Police raiding Crown Cuts. Word is they found guns and drugs hidden in the walls. Marcus getting locked up." Ice knew this was almost certainly false. Marcus Jefferson had always kept his business clean, even offering Ice occasional work sweeping up despite his record. But truth mattered less than perception, and this perceived attack on a neighborhood institution demanded a response. "Text the crew," Ice instructed Darius. "Tell them to meet here in 15, and bring protection." As Darius complied, Ice received another message from a contact saved only as K. The same contact Catherine Winters had messaged minutes earlier. "Police distracted at Crown. Move on the pharmacy now. You have 30 minutes before backup arrives." Ice's expression darkened further. He had suspected his anonymous business partner had connections, but using the police as pawns in their scheme crossed a line even he hadn't anticipated. Still, the opportunity was too valuable to waste. "Change of plans," he announced to Darius. "Half the crew to the pharmacy on 7th. The rest stay ready here." Back at Crown Cuts, the search had yielded nothing suspicious, but the damage to the atmosphere was complete. The joyful community gathering had transformed into a scene of tension and humiliation. Clients sat stiffly in their chairs, some openly filming the officers with their phones, others avoiding eye contact entirely. Outside, the crowd had swelled to over 50 people, their angry voices now clearly audible inside. "This is harassment. Leave them alone. Where were you when the pharmacy got robbed last week?" Sergeant Hayes conferred briefly with his officers before approaching Andre and Marcus near the reception desk. "We've found no evidence supporting the report," he admitted, his voice low enough that only they could hear. "But that crowd outside is becoming a problem." "A problem you created," Marcus replied, struggling to control his anger. "Do you understand what this does to my business? To my reputation? People trust this place as a safe space." "We were responding to a credible report." "Credible?" Andre interrupted. "Let me guess. White woman, early 40s, driving a luxury SUV. The same one who was just in here demanding immediate service during our community event." Hayes's expression confirmed Andre's suspicion. "The caller's identity is confidential, but we take all reports of illegal activity seriously." "This was a false report," Andre insisted. "And you know it. You could have sent one car to check things out discreetly, instead of rolling up like you're busting a drug ring." Before Hayes could respond, the radio on his shoulder crackled to life. "All units in the vicinity of 7th Street and Pine. We have a 1031 in progress at Johnson's Pharmacy. Multiple suspects. Possible armed conflict with store owner." Hayes immediately directed his officers toward the exit. "We need to clear out. Detective, I'd appreciate your assistance controlling this crowd." As the officers attempted to leave, they found their path partially blocked by the gathering outside, which had grown increasingly hostile. People pressed against the police vehicles, smartphones recording every interaction. "This is what our tax dollars pay for," shouted an elderly woman who regularly brought her grandchildren to Crown Cuts. "Harassing honest businesses while criminals run free?" Inside, Marcus addressed his shaken clients and staff. "I want to apologize to everyone for this disruption. Please know that Crown Cuts has nothing to hide. We've been a part of this community for 60 years, and will continue to be here long after today's ugliness is forgotten." But even as he spoke these reassuring words, Marcus noticed several new faces entering his shop, young men with the telltale bandanas and posture that identified them as East Side crew members. They nodded respectfully to Marcus, but positioned themselves near windows and doors, their presence adding another layer of tension to the already charged atmosphere. "Zoe," Marcus called to his daughter, "start closing up. We're ending early today." As the police finally managed to disperse enough of the crowd to depart toward the pharmacy emergency, Catherine Winters watched from her SUV with satisfaction before driving away. She hadn't expected quite this level of response, but it certainly fulfilled her promise that Marcus would regret refusing her service. What she couldn't have anticipated was how quickly events would spiral beyond anyone's control. By mid-afternoon, multiple distinct but interconnected crises were unfolding across Willow Creek's east side. At Johnson's Pharmacy, police had arrived to find the elderly owner wounded, having confronted armed robbers who escaped with prescription medications and the day's cash receipts. Witnesses reported seeing suspects matching the description of East Side crew members fleeing the scene. Simultaneously, members of the rival North Side Boys, sensing an opportunity in the chaos, had moved into territory typically controlled by East Side, leading to confrontations on street corners and outside convenience stores. What began as posturing and verbal threats quickly escalated to physical violence. Social media amplified and distorted events in real time. Videos of the police raid on Crown Cuts, now viewed thousands of times, carried captions claiming everything from "Police find weapons cache in barbershop basement" to "Black business owner arrested for standing up to police harassment." Neither was true, but truth had become irrelevant in the rapidly evolving narrative. By 4 o'clock, Marcus had sent his staff home, but remained at Crown Cuts with Andre, watching the deteriorating situation through the windows. They had pulled down the security gates halfway, technically closed, but not yet locked up. "This isn't random," Andre observed, scrolling through updates on his phone. "The pharmacy robbery happened almost immediately after we were occupied here. Someone coordinated this." "You think the woman who called 911 was involved with the robbery?" Marcus asked, incredulous. "I don't know yet, but the timing is too perfect to be coincidence." Andre's phone rang the precinct, calling him in, despite his scheduled day off. "I've got to go. Lock up and go home. Marcus, this neighborhood isn't safe tonight." As Andre left through the back entrance, Marcus began his closing routine, his movements mechanical as his mind processed the day's events. The security camera above the register caught his attention. It had been recording all day, including Catherine Winters' visit and the subsequent police action. Marcus connected his laptop to the security system and began downloading the footage. As he waited, a sharp rapping on the front security gate startled him. Through the metal slats, he recognized Pastor Williams' concerned face. "Marcus, you need to come to the community center," the elderly man urged. We're organizing an emergency neighborhood meeting to address what's happening. People respect your voice. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Marcus promised. Just need to secure a few things here first. As Pastor Williams departed, Marcus finished downloading the security footage and was about to shut down his computer when an email notification appeared. The sender was unfamiliar, but the subject line froze him in place. Crown Cuts footage you need to see. Hesitantly, Marcus opened the message to find a video attachment and a brief message. Thought you should know who's really behind today's events. A concerned citizen. The video, recorded from across the street, showed Catherine Winters leaving Crown Cuts and entering her SUV. But instead of driving away immediately, she was clearly visible making a phone call. The footage had been enhanced with audio, likely captured from a directional microphone, and Marcus listened in growing horror as she falsely reported drugs and weapons in his shop. But what truly shocked him came next. After ending the 911 call, Catherine made another call. "Raymond, it's Catherine. The police will be occupied at Crown Cuts for at least half an hour. You're clear to move on the pharmacy as we discussed. Remember our deal, 60% of the oxycodone comes to me. You keep the rest and the cash." Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. The woman hadn't just made a false report out of spite. She was actively coordinating with local criminals. But who had recorded this, and why send it to him? The answer came in the final seconds of the video, when Catherine's face filled the frame through her windshield as she appeared to take pictures or video of the shop. The camera zoomed in on her screen, revealing a text conversation with a contact saved as Councilman Roberts that read, "Operation going as planned. Both locations compromised. Property values will plummet by month's end. Developers can move in with lowball offers." The video ended with a typed message overlaying the final frame. "They're trying to destroy the neighborhood to buy it cheap. Takeover plan includes Crown Cuts location. Footage sent to police and media in 1 hour unless you act." Marcus quickly copied the video file to his phone before grabbing his keys and laptop. The community center meeting had just become exponentially more important. As he exited through the back door, he failed to notice two vehicles parked in the shadows across the street, a white Mercedes SUV and a black sedan with tinted windows. Inside the sedan, Catherine Winters sat with Councilman Roberts, watching Marcus leave. "He received the video," Roberts observed, his tone even. "Your anonymous whistleblower routine worked." "Of course it did," Catherine replied. "People always believe what confirms their suspicions. By the time they realize it's manipulated footage, the neighborhood will be in flames and our development plan back on schedule." Roberts checked his watch. ICE's crew should be engaging with Northside in about 15 minutes. With both gangs fully involved and police overwhelmed, no one will be looking at property records or connecting dots. "And if Marcus Jefferson tries to play hero with that doctored video?" Catherine asked. Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. "That's why we have friends in the department. One shop owner's wild conspiracy theories won't matter much during a full-scale riot." The community center was packed beyond capacity when Marcus arrived, the crowd spilling out onto the steps and sidewalk. Inside, a heated debate was already underway, with Pastor Williams struggling to maintain order from behind a podium. Community elders, business owners, parents, and teenagers filled every available seat, while representatives from both East Side crew and North Side boys stood along opposite walls, eyeing each other warily. "We need to organize neighborhood patrols," argued Mrs. Johnson, her arm in a sling from the pharmacy robbery. "The police have proven they won't protect us." Patrols with what countered another business owner. "The moment any of us picks up so much as a baseball bat, We'll be the ones arrested. Pastor Williams spotted Marcus entering and gestured him forward. Marcus Jefferson is here, as owner of Crown Cuts. He was at the center of today's initial incident. Marcus, please share your perspective. All eyes turned to Marcus as he made his way to the front, laptop in hand. The room gradually quieted, respect for his long-standing community role evident even amidst the tension. What happened at my shop today wasn't random, Marcus began, connecting his laptop to the projector system. And it wasn't just about a privileged woman angry at not getting her way. There's something bigger happening. And I've been sent evidence that might explain it. As Marcus prepared to play the video, the community center doors burst open. Detective Andre Powell entered, accompanied by two uniformed officers. Marcus, don't play that file, Andre called out, striding quickly down the center aisle. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Marcus turned to his friend in confusion. Andre, you need to see this. It shows Catherine Winters coordinating with ICE's crew to rob the pharmacy, while she created a distraction at my shop. Andre reached the podium and lowered his voice. The file is compromised. Marcus, we received it too. Someone sent it anonymously to the department. Our tech unit analyzed it and found it's been professionally manipulated. The audio doesn't match the video timestamps, and several sections have been spliced together from different recordings. Marcus's confidence faltered. What? But it looks completely authentic. That's the point, Andre replied grimly. Someone wants us chasing shadows while the real plan unfolds. They're counting on us jumping to conclusions and escalating the situation. Before Marcus could respond, shouts erupted outside the community center. Through the windows, they could see the flashing lights of multiple emergency vehicles, and the distinctive pop of gunfire echoed from several blocks away. It started, one of the officers with Andre announced after checking his radio. Reports of armed confrontations between East Side and North Side at 3 different locations. Multiple civilian casualties reported. The crowd in the community center erupted into panic. Parents grabbed their children. Elders were helped toward exits, and several young men from both gangs slipped out to join the brewing conflict. Everyone please remain calm, Pastor Williams pleaded, his voice barely audible above the commotion. Andre jumped onto a chair, his police badge held high. This center is designated as a safe zone. Anyone who wants to stay out of the conflict, remain here. Officers will be posted at all entrances. As the initial wave of panic subsided, those committed to community peace gathered around Andre and Marcus near the podium. Pastor Williams, Mrs. Johnson, Zoe, and about 30 others formed an impromptu crisis committee. If the video is fake, what's really happening? Zoe asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Andre spread a city map across the podium. In the past 6 hours, we've had coordinated incidents at Crown Cuts, Johnson's Pharmacy, the Community Garden on 8th, and the Youth Center on Pine. All locations that recently rejected buyout offers from Willow Creek Development Corporation. Willow Creek Development. Marcus repeated. Catherine Winters' husband sits on their board. And Councilman Roberts chairs the zoning committee that approves their projects, added Mrs. Johnson. Andre nodded. Exactly. We've been investigating their practices for months. They've been trying to acquire properties throughout East Willow for a major redevelopment project. But too many key property owners have refused to sell. So they're manufacturing a crisis, Pastor Williams concluded, to drive down property values and force people out. Creating chaos as a business strategy, Marcus added bitterly, using our own community conflicts against us? The conversation was interrupted as Andre's radio crackled with increasingly urgent updates. The confrontations had escalated dramatically, with reports of storefronts being looted and multiple vehicles set ablaze. The mayor had requested state police assistance, and rumors of National Guard deployment circulated. "I need to get back out there," Andre announced. "But first, we need a plan to counter their narrative." Marcus's expression shifted as an idea formed. "The security cameras, not just from my shop, but from businesses throughout the neighborhood. If we can gather authentic footage showing the coordinated nature of these events. And I have access to the city's traffic camera network," Andre added. "With a judge's emergency authorization, we could track Catherine's movements throughout the day." Zoe, who had been quietly typing on her phone, looked up. "I've been texting with friends across the neighborhood. Several saw Catherine's SUV parked near locations where conflicts broke out later. Some have photos with timestamps." "We need to work fast," Andre cautioned. "Every minute we delay, their plan succeeds further." As they formulated their strategy, the violence outside intensified. From the community center's second floor, they could see plumes of smoke rising from multiple directions. Emergency sirens wailed continuously, and the city's emergency alert system sent warnings to all cell phones in the area: civil disturbance in progress, shelter in place, curfew in effect from 8:00 p.m. Marcus turned to the gathered community members. "We need volunteers to collect security footage from as many businesses as possible. Work in pairs, stay safe, and meet back here in 1 hour." As teams dispersed, Andre received a call from the police commissioner. His expression darkened as he listened. "They've called in the National Guard," he informed the others after ending the call. "And the mayor is holding an emergency press conference at City Hall in 30 minutes. Councilman Roberts will be standing beside him." They're going to control the narrative, Marcus realized. Paint this as senseless gang violence that proves the neighborhood needs renewal. "Not if we get there first," Zoe declared, holding up her phone. "I've been live streaming our meeting and Andre's explanation about the Development Corporation. We already have over 2,000 viewers." Pastor Williams nodded approvingly. "The truth is our most powerful weapon." As night fell over Willow Creek, the situation deteriorated further. Multiple buildings now burned unchecked, as firefighters awaited police escorts that were stretched too thin to provide adequate protection. The initial confrontations between rival gangs had metastasized into widespread opportunistic looting and destruction that bore little resemblance to the original conflict. At City Hall, camera crews set up for the mayor's address, while protesters gathered outside, their chants echoing through the historic square. Inside, Mayor Wilson reviewed his prepared remarks with Councilman Roberts at his side. "The statement emphasizes restoration of order above all," Roberts advised. "Frame it as random criminal activity that proves the need for our redevelopment initiative." "And the allegations about Catherine Winters?" the mayor asked. "Unsubstantiated rumors spread by those who oppose progress," Roberts dismissed with a wave of his hand. "The police have already determined the supposed evidence was manipulated." Unbeknownst to them, 3 SUVs were racing toward City Hall from different directions. In the first, Marcus and Pastor Williams carried hard drives containing security footage from 12 different businesses. In the second, Andre and 2 trusted officers transported witnesses who had seen Catherine Winters at key locations throughout the day. In the third, Zoe led a group of social media influencers who had been documenting the neighborhood's struggles against corporate takeover attempts long before today's violence. They arrived simultaneously, parking haphazardly and rushing toward the press conference area. Security attempted to block their entry until Andre flashed his badge and demanded access. "This is pertinent to the ongoing investigation," he insisted, pushing past the guards with his group in tow. They entered just as Mayor Wilson approached the podium, cameras rolling and reporters poised with questions. Councilman Roberts spotted them first, his confident expression faltering momentarily before he leaned in to whisper urgently to the mayor. "Mr. Mayor," Andre called out before the press conference could officially begin. "I'm Detective Andre Powell, Willow Creek Police Department. Before you make your statement, there's critical information about today's events that you need to be aware of." The mayor hesitated, cameras swiveling to capture the interruption. "Detective, this isn't the appropriate time." "It's exactly the time," Marcus interjected, stepping forward with a hard drive. "Before you inadvertently spread misinformation about what happened in East Willow today." Reporters, sensing a more compelling story than the planned press conference, redirected their attention. Cameramen adjusted their equipment to capture the confrontation, and social media live streams multiplied as word spread. "We have compiled evidence," Andre continued formally, suggesting that today's civil unrest was deliberately instigated as part of a real estate acquisition strategy orchestrated by Willow Creek Development Corporation, with the knowledge and participation of certain city officials. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembled press corps. Councilman Roberts stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "That's an outrageous accusation with no basis, in fact," he declared. "Detective Powell is overstepping his authority and spreading conspiracy theories during a crisis." "Then you won't mind if we review the security footage," Andre countered, signaling to a technician who had accompanied them to connect the hard drive to the press room's AV system. The mayor, visibly flustered, attempted to regain control of the situation. "This press conference is about restoring order to our streets, not entertaining unverified—" "Sir," Andre interrupted respectfully but firmly, "as an officer investigating these crimes, I'm obligated to inform you that continuing with a narrative that contradicts emerging evidence could potentially constitute obstruction." The implied threat hung in the air as cameras continued to roll. After a tense moment, the mayor nodded reluctantly. "Proceed, Detective. But this better be substantive." What followed was a methodical presentation of evidence that left little room for doubt. Multiple camera angles showed Catherine Winters making her false 911 call, followed by her vehicle appearing at other incident locations throughout the day. Phone records, obtained through emergency warrant, revealed a pattern of calls between Catherine, Councilman Roberts, and known gang associates immediately preceding each outbreak of violence. Most damning was footage from the city's own traffic cameras, showing Catherine and Roberts meeting with Raymond "Ice" Jackson 2 days earlier, contradicting Roberts' previous claims that he had never interacted with gang members. As the evidence mounted, Roberts' confident demeanor crumbled. When confronted with bank records showing substantial payments from Willow Creek Development Corporation to accounts linked to both East Side Crew and North Side Boys, he abruptly attempted to leave the press conference, only to find police officers blocking his exit. "Councilman Roberts," Andre announced formally, "you're being detained for questioning regarding your involvement in today's events." The press conference had transformed into breaking news, being broadcast live across the region. As Roberts was escorted from the room, the mayor appeared shell-shocked, his prepared statement forgotten as he struggled to process the revelations. Outside City Hall, word of the conspiracy spread rapidly through social media and text messages, reaching even those actively participating in the unrest. The realization that they had been manipulated into destroying their own neighborhood led many to abandon looting and confrontation. instead turning their efforts toward protecting remaining businesses and helping firefighters access burning buildings. By midnight, Catherine Winters had been located and taken into custody at her home in the estates. Raymond "Ice" Jackson, seeing the collapse of the scheme, provided authorities with detailed information about his role in exchange for consideration during sentencing. Throughout the night, state police and National Guard troops established security perimeters around damaged areas, allowing emergency services to begin addressing the destruction. Dawn broke over a neighborhood forever changed, but not defeated. As residents emerged from their homes and shelters to assess the damage, they found a complex mixture of destruction and preservation. Crown Cuts, though its windows were shattered, had been protected by community members who formed a human chain around it during the worst of the violence. Johnson's Pharmacy had suffered more extensive damage, but remained structurally sound. At the community center, which had served as an overnight shelter for displaced families, Marcus joined Pastor Williams, Andre, and other community leaders for an impromptu breakfast meeting. Their exhausted faces reflected the night's traumas, but a cautious sense of hope permeated their discussion. "The mayor has called an emergency session of the city council," Andre reported, checking his phone. "They're voting to establish a community oversight board for all future development projects in East Willow. And I've received calls from 3 different news networks requesting interviews," Pastor Williams added. "People want to hear our story, the real story." Zoe, who had spent the night coordinating social media responses and correcting misinformation, looked up from her laptop. "There's a GoFundMe for neighborhood reconstruction that's already raised over $200,000. People from across the country are contributing." Marcus nodded thoughtfully, cradling a cup of coffee as he gazed out at volunteers already beginning to clear debris from sidewalks. "We've got a long road ahead. Buildings can be repaired, but trust takes longer to rebuild." "Then we start today," Mrs. Johnson declared firmly, her injured arm still in its sling. "My pharmacy will reopen next week, even if I have to dispense medications from a card table on the sidewalk." A young man who had been quietly listening from the corner stepped forward, one of ICE's crew members, who had chosen to remain at the community center rather than join the violence. "I want to help," he offered simply. "A lot of us do. This is our home too." Pastor William smiled, extending his hand to the young man. "Everyone who wants to build rather than destroy is welcome." 3 weeks later, Crown Cuts celebrated its grand reopening. New windows gleamed in the morning sunlight, and the checkered floor had been polished to a high shine. The walls featured new photographs, alongside the historic ones, images of community members protecting the shop, cleaning up after the unrest, and working together on repairs. A ribbon stretched across the entrance, held by Marcus on one side and Mayor Wilson on the other. A crowd had gathered for the ceremony, including news cameras and representatives from businesses throughout the city that had contributed to reconstruction efforts. "Before we cut this ribbon," Marcus addressed the assembled crowd, "I want to acknowledge what we've learned from this experience. Our neighborhood was targeted because someone thought we were divided enough to be conquered, weak enough to be manipulated. They underestimated the bonds that hold us together, bonds that grew stronger through adversity rather than breaking under pressure." He gestured toward the newly established East Willow Community Development Corporation office across the street, where residents now held majority control over approval of all neighborhood projects. "We've transformed a scheme meant to displace us into an opportunity to take genuine ownership of our community's future." As scissors sliced through the ribbon, applause erupted from the crowd. Customers flowed into the shop, where all 5 barber chairs were immediately filled. Outside, picnic tables had been set up for a block party that would continue throughout the day, celebrating not just the reopening of one business, but the rebirth of a neighborhood's sense of agency and unity. On the television mounted in the shop corner, a news report showed Catherine Winters and Councilman Roberts being led into court for their arraignment on multiple charges including conspiracy, fraud, and inciting a riot. The segment concluded with aerial footage of reconstruction projects throughout East Willow, accompanied by the reporter's observation that property values in the area had actually increased following the announcement of resident-controlled development initiatives. As Marcus prepared his station for the day's first official haircut, reserved for Pastor Williams, as a gesture of respect, Zoe approached with her tablet. "Dad, you need to see this," she said, showing him the shop's social media page. The story of Crown Cuts and East Willow had gone viral, inspiring similar community ownership initiatives in cities across the country. Their small neighborhood barbershop had become a symbol of resilience against corporate exploitation and systemic manipulation. "Not bad for a neighborhood they tried to burn down," Marcus remarked with a smile, adjusting his clippers. "Not bad at all," Andre agreed, entering through the front door in civilian clothes, ready for his regular Saturday appointment. "Though I'm still waiting for that promotion they promised for breaking the case." "In the meantime," Marcus laughed, gesturing toward an empty chair, "how about a fresh cut on the house? Heroes get special treatment here." As the familiar hum of clippers filled the shop, blending with music and conversation, Crown Cuts resumed its role as more than just a business, a community anchor where stories were shared, relationships strengthened, and the future shaped one conversation at a time. Outside its windows, East Willow continued its recovery, transformed by fire but not consumed, its foundations reinforced by the discovery that what united its residents was ultimately stronger than any force that sought to divide them.